Hey there, hey there, hey there, hey there. So, how are you today? Hope you're doing well. Had a good workout? Did you have a good workout? Did you have a good day? It's the afternoon. I'm so sorry. I'm just getting back to you. I haven't seen you in a while. Actually, I've seen you, but you haven't seen me. So it's good to be back. For acing it, day number 9. Is it day number 9? I was thinking, whose idea was this to be positive like every day? It was mine. And you're acing it, right? And it's important because it is an exercise. You have to practice. You have to practice until you get it right. And so acing it, don't forget, is about actively centralizing yourself on what is authentic about you and using that to empower yourself from the margins, meaning not to be silent. Not to be silent. Um, so a couple of things. A lot is going on. I know. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Just a few things. We're not going to get into it deeply. Well, you can read the book. You can get my book, Teaching Without Borders, on Amazon, Kindle, Cognella. And you can get my book, 250 Years and Still a Slave, because it's really important. It's really appropriate what's going on today and what I talked about in my book that I wrote about being a slave. Everyone's a slave when you think about it. In certain ways, you can be. So let me tell you something. One of the main things that are going on. Okay, acing it. I'm coming from acing it. I'm actively centralizing myself and empowering myself to who I am authentically and talking to you about a couple of things. First of all, I just want you to relax and be calm. There's a lot going on in the world. I know there is a lot going on in the world. And there's a lot of times when things like this happen, we can make the mistake and do things to others that we don't want done to ourselves, or has been done to ourselves or is being done to ourselves. So let me just go real quickly through this. I promise. I know I always say that real quickly and then I don't. Let me stay focused on this. Okay. And acing it. Acing it. That's the ace in the A. All right. Lack of diversity. Lack of diversity. Part of the problem. Big part of the problem. Because seeing people of color, women, members of LGBTQAGRFCT, physically special in leadership roles, the lack of seeing these types of people in leadership roles makes other people freak out. Seriously, they freak out. They don't know what's going on. Oh my God. We had one black president and everybody freaked out. Oh my gosh, can we have a woman president like other countries? Oh no. She's too emotional. She's going to push the button. I'm thinking, no one, oh my goodness, no one's more emotional than some of the men that we have seen. Am I correct? At least a woman would rationalize and balance some things, just like she does in the home with children, and say, "I know you have your opinion, and you have your opinion, and you have your opinion, and that's diversity, and I love it." And a woman has that emotional intelligence that would say, "This is how we're going to work it out, so that everybody can be peaceful and we can get it through." Not saying men can't do it. I'm just saying I'm giving some of the women some of the love this month today. So, emotional intelligence is really important. But because of lack of diversity in all areas, um, people are not ready. Let me just call it out. Some white people aren't ready. They've never seen anything. We've been conditioned to understand diversity. We've been conditioned, no matter what history or anything tells us, we're okay. Like when we see, a person like Cleopatra, right? Elizabeth Taylor played Cleopatra. We know Elizabeth Taylor really wasn't from Cleopatra. But we've learned how to deal with diversity. A lot of times, our bosses, our supervisors, people that we have to deal with are white. And so, people of color, unless you're living in certain areas like Atlanta, sometimes you don't, or Africa or parts of Chicago. I know people from parts of Chicago, they don't have a lot of, they do not have a lot of experience dealing with white people growing up. But as they grew older and they went to school or they started getting jobs, they dealt with white people. So you're kind of used to just kind of getting along and kind of dealing with things. And not saying white people cannot, but there are some white people that are having issues with this, okay? And I don't think it's because, they're bad or they're mean, or I think they're really scared. I think a lot of them are scared. And I think a lot of them have been conditioned. They've been conditioned to believe certain things. They've been conditioned to believe. Actually, it's in a book. I actually looked for this. I'm a researcher, so I look and explore like an archaeologist, and I try to find the fossils of what really is going on. And I got this fascinating book that I finally found the answer. But I'll have to tell you that at another time. I will tell you it's about psychology, sociology, and anthropology. But anyways, let's get to the let's get to this last part. Let me get back here. All right. And the reason why I'll tell you about lack of diversity, because over the years, a lot of times God has put me in positions where I'm the only female, I'm the first female, or I'm the first black female, whatever the case may be. And I will tell you that my students over 20 years have said how beneficial that was. Whether I was in Kansas University as the inaugural undistinguished professor of excellence there, whether I was the only African American, black female in the entire College of Media at the University of Illinois, the only one. And between those students and colleges, I've had emails from students saying, "You're my first female professor I've ever had, and it really helped me learn this," or whatever. "You're the first black female I've ever had as a professor," or whatever. And really, diversity makes a difference. And I'm just not saying it's just a black white thing. I'm saying that it's physically special people. It's people from LGBTQRESDFIG. It's from people of Asian descent. It's people of color. It's white people. It's all of that. I think diversity is really important. I really do. And not just diversity on races and colors, but in ethnicities, but races I mean, differences in diversity of opinion. Everybody doesn't think the same, and they shouldn't. That's not really how you gauge whether you're really good at leading or solving a problem or what really gauges that is whether or not you can have diverse voices and opinions and actually find respect in all of them, appreciate all of them, and then move forward. That's transformational leadership, which I think is what needs to be what needs to happen. Um, so the lack of diversity. Let's talk about academician or academia. Let's talk about that where and a lot of people don't. Okay, Don Hyder calls it incognizant racism. Okay, and there are other people who called it different things. Sometimes people know, and sometimes they do not know. Okay, so this is how what racism looks like, and people don't know it. Okay, so I deal with a lot of inclusion. I do a lot of studies on inclusion. I do observation analysis for people. I actually go into their classroom or I go into their job of work, their place of work, or I go into their community and I actually look and see what is actually going on when it comes to marginalization and how can we fix it. And so one of the things that I found in schools, which are really important and they're very powerful, students and professors are professors are very powerful, teachers are, and that's why I think it's important for students to have some empowerment as well, to have a say in their education to some degree. I think it's really important. And active centralized empowerment, teaching without borders, talks about that, how that can actually be done and actually be beneficial. Um, Here's an example of incognizant racism. And incognizant again is because perhaps I've seen it time and time again. I'll ask the professors, what do you think about this? And because of the responses, they were not aware. Okay. So, for instance, there are professors during the Black Lives Matters movements over the years, I would say over the past 3 years. Um, I think it's about 3 years when I started studying and doing observation analysis of how it was being taught in certain classrooms and how it was represented in certain classrooms. And what happens is a white professor will tell a black student, for instance, that they can go out and cover this story on Black Lives Matters. Okay. And then they'll say, but I want you to forget that you're black covering this story because then you're going to show prejudice and then there's a slant. Got it. Okay. And then I thought to myself, being a journalist and being in media, one of the things that you want to bring to the table is just like any scientist will tell you, if you have experience, if you have expertise, you can ask the questions that other people will not ask, right? It's just like I said the other day. don't keep asking black people in media or anyone. Don't keep asking black people. I am not racist. How's your? He's not racist, or I'm not racist, and how am I racist? How am I racist? And then we give you 10 different examples of how you said some racist stuff. I still love you. Turn that thing around. Active centralized empowerment says, take that mirror and flip that thing around and say, well, tell me how you're not racist. That's a little bit harder, and it's not easy to do. But that's where the conversation needs to go. But anyways, getting back to my example. So professors, and this happened over a number of schools and a number of classes, they would tell journalism students, media students that you can go out and cover this Black Lives Matters, but you have to forget that you're black. And my question is, when was the last time you told a male student that they can go cover baseball and football, but you have to forget your male? If you did not do that, please understand that that may have been a little racist. That's absolutely crazy. But they never thought about it. They're thinking like, oh my God, so black people are pushed to be so, and like we can't be objective. I cannot tell you how many times I've said something about journalism, because I am a professional journalist, because I've worked in the top 10 market. I've worked for NBC, ESPN. Started a brand new show. I've worked in the top market, in the 8th market of the nation. I've won all these Emmy Awards or whatever. So I can look at it from an objective point of view and say, well, I don't know if I would run the story because I don't think they've done their homework. What do some white people without diversity here? Okay, give me an example. Here's an example. I'll say, let's not look at that. I'm going to give you so everybody can relate to this. I'm going to say, I'm going to go to the other store, because I'm not going to go to that store because it has a blue sweater that's not the type of blue that I'm looking for. I want to go to the other store because I want that other type of blue sweater, or maybe even red. Okay. Now, here's what some white people hear. This is what they heard when I just said that. Okay. You know what? I'm really kind of like not feeling that store over there because that clerk kind of looked at me really weird. And because I'm black, I'm going to walk down this black sidewalk and I'm going to go to that black store and I'm going to look for that blue black sweater. And then when I get that blue black sweater, I'm actually not going to get that because I'm going to go over here because I feel more comfortable over here. Because I'm black and everything I'm saying is black. And so you should hear it as black. And I can only speak as a black person. They don't mean it, but they really think. I will tell you, I'm kidding. Seriously, do not get mad at this. I will tell you that I had a professor that I loved so very much. He was so sweet to me. He was so wonderful. He's a white male. And I loved him. He loved me. It was really great. But oh my God, I had to tell him 3 times. I mean, no, 3 years, over 3 years, I'm not from Harlem. I'm not from Harlem. I would be in a class and he would say, oh, well, Miss Collins can tell you, this was before I got my doctorate. And they would say, Miss Collins can tell you all about that. She can tell you all about Harlem. I was up there in New York and she could tell you all about Harlem. And I would go, I'm a military brat. I've moved every year for the first 14 years of my life, including Germany, twice in New York. I'm a Virginia girl. I love Harlem. Don't get me wrong. But every black person is not from Harlem. And I would have to tell them, yes, professor, I love Harlem, but you got to remember I'm not from Harlem. And so it's a lack of diversity, a lack of understanding. Okay. Even when you talk about diversity, if you're at a school right now and you have a diversity committee or you have anything diverse about diversity, and that diversity committee is not led by one of the individuals identified in the margins, like a person of color or LGBT or physically special or a woman, or anything like that, you got some problems right there. Because it gets to the point where you actually look at how segregated it is and how you actually think you're working with diversity and you're trying to help, with diversity, but you're not diverse even in your approach. Right. And so it gives the illusion and perpetuates the stereotype that only white people can teach white people. That's really what's going on. there are scholars, white scholars, wonderful scholars that do wonderful work, and they talk about white privilege, racism, whatever the case, entitlement, whatever you want to call it. Okay. And I don't like to make a hasty generalizations because I've been around white people and they are nothing like that. Okay. But that's another thing I'm going to get to. So, but these same white scholars, experts, research, whatever, who will say, yeah, I know all about white entitlement and white privilege and all. I think it's absolutely wonderful, but I've never really seen any of them actually pay homage or actually suggest this black scholar who knows just as much, if not more, because they've experienced it or they understand it from a different perspective. It gives the illusion that only a white expert can really talk, or maybe even a person of Asian descent. I know a person, a scholar, a well-known scholar who is of Asian descent who talks about marginalization. And but I'm thinking I don't see anything in there about where they're coming from as far as their expertise, other than studying, other than researching. Um, but just take it for what it's worth. And I think that's why diversity. So you need to have a little bit of everyone. So you can have those scholars that do that and that sort of thing. But if you don't have a scholar or a researcher who actually can speak, and not everybody can speak from that. Like there are certain ways that yes, I'm a black female, but there I come from an upper middle class family. My parents both are everybody in my family is college educated, and it doesn't make me better than anyone else. There are certain things though that I did not have to deal with that other black people had to deal with, so I limit myself as well. I can talk about it with limitations, and so it's not just a white black thing, and white people have to do this, and white people have to know. Um, I think it's a human being thing. I think it's a humanist, but also there's an expertise to existentialism, where it's not only from your lived experience, but it's also your survival. It's from where you come from, okay, and your experiences. But everything is segregated if you think about it, and it really works my nerves sometimes, right? And if you don't believe it, it's not just about Black History Month. It's just not about Women's History Month. It's not about whatever. I mean, it's almost like, okay, well, we're going to have the rest of the year, but you can have this month and we don't really have to celebrate it. But then you're going to force us to celebrate it. So we're going to have a problem with that. But at the same time, we've celebrated so many things like White Santa Claus and Kris Kringle and God and Jesus and Mary and all of that, and they didn't look too African to me when I looked at these movies and stuff like that. Speaking of movies, have you noticed, like on Netflix? I look at Netflix and all that all the time. I love documentaries. Saw some really great stuff. Some of this stuff I have to stop watching. All this shoot 'em up stuff um, and that Mia Farrow and Woody Allen honey. That's something totally different, right? So even like I get a little paranoid, right, when I go honey or whatever, right? It's like, oh my God, is that Aunt Jemima? Is this or whatever? I'm like, whatever. Um, I don't get paranoid. Don't believe that. Active centralized environment means that I am who I am and I'm authentic. But here's the deal: Black History Month and all that. I even see it on Netflix. If I pick one movie out that has a main character like Tiffany Haddish, who's black, all of a sudden every single recommendation on Netflix is black. Like every movie is black. Or have you noticed if you pick anything out that's black or anything out that's white or anything out that's Latinx or whatever the case, all of a sudden the same movie, let's say Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and let's say you pick out looking at Messiah, a black focused movie, or Miami, Midnight in Miami, or something like that, right? With Regina King and what she did. Let's say you pick out a movie that has centrally a black character, okay? Some really great movies out there too. All of a sudden, Rudolph, you go back to Rudolph, instead of seeing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, you'll see a black Rudolph. Or you'll see you'll see a movie that when you first look at it, it has all these characters and they're mostly white. But then if you pick out a black movie, when you come back to that same exact movie, all of a sudden the cover, the advertising cover for that movie will feature a black character. May not even be a main character, but all of a sudden, so see, it's artificial intelligence, it's algorithms, it's all of that when computers are saying, oh, so she likes a little bit of this. Let's look at that. Oh, so she wanted to watch Billie Holiday. Well, now let's every image, every movie, all of a sudden, it's like I can only watch black movies, or they're going to get my attention through image because of a black image. It's almost like even Netflix, even computerized algorithms that have artificial intelligence say, oh, this is what you picked last time. So let's go with that and let's have you do this. They're actually lacking diversity because everything doesn't have to be black. Everything doesn't have to be a woman. Like, right? Like, just because I'm a woman, I still have diversity. Okay. Like Lifetime Television. Remember Lifetime Television was out? I'm a woman. I love Lifetime Television, but I was like, oh my God, are they going to cry anymore? Is this another story like, oh my God, I'm working all the time and I'm doing the housework and then my husband doesn't appreciate me. And so I'm just like, I'm going to murder him. Or something like that. It's really weird, right? And I'm like, seriously, all women are not made the same? No, I don't want to see all that. And then, and like these real talk shows, right? These talk shows with a bunch of women. Sometimes I'm like, first of all, I'm like, who's producing it? You need to tell them to stop talking at the same time. I cannot understand. It has nothing to do with being a woman. Don't talk over talk each other. We can't understand you. And then sometimes they sound cackling. I'm going to tell you the truth. They sound cackling. Oh my God. And then if they don't talk about their kids, if they don't talk about their pets, if they don't talk about just stuff, it's just really weird. But you have to find your own diversity. That's what active centralized empowerment tells you to do. And I love men, I love women, I love everybody, I love in between, cisgender, transgender, whatever. I love you because you're God's people and it's okay. But I will tell you, one time I went out to this restaurant. I was invited out to the restaurant to meet with the women. And this was some years back. And it was really great. I was like, okay, cool. I'll go out. All right. And we went to this restaurant. And we were in this booth and I was sliding in first. I was at the wall. I couldn't get out to use the bathroom unless I asked everybody to move, whatever. So I'm sitting there and I'm telling you, okay, I'm sitting there and I kid you not, the entire 3 hours, they talked about everything that I'm thinking, why are you talking about that? You're out of the house. Get out of the house. You're away from all of that. Oh my God. I wonder, what does he want to eat tonight? I'm going to have to fix him something to eat tonight. And oh, my kids, let me tell you what my kid did. And let me tell you that, oh my God, my dog, he really looked like he was like crying. Seriously. And oh my God, do I look okay? I don't know. Should I order this to eat? But I'm thinking like it has too much cheese. So I'm like, oh my God, when's the last time I had a beer? I probably should have some wine because then it doesn't have as many calories. Oh my God, did you work out today? And I'm thinking to myself, get me out of here. Oh my God, is this what you all talk about? Seriously, I'm sorry, am I loud? I'm thinking, oh my God, women, honey, darlings, I'm going to have to get you out to my club. I'm going to have to get you out to my place because I think it's wonderful that you're nurturing. You're the mother and you're the wife and you're all these great things. But honey, sometimes you got to get out and just have a good time. And so I'm sitting there looking like, oh my God, please don't let them see in my face. Like, oh my God, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? This is not fun at all. No one wants to do any shots. No one wants to do any shots. What is going on? Oh my goodness, seriously, do you want to go to a cigar bar and a martini bar and just have a good time? Do you want to go dancing? What up? What are we going to sit here and talk about this? And me as a single woman, I'm like, oh my God, I can't talk about any of this stuff. I'm going to talk about my students. I love my students. I can talk about my students forever and a day. I love them. They're my children. I take care of them as my children. But when I get away even from my children, my students, I'm not going to talk about them. And I'm sitting there I'm in the inside of the booth. I'm looking across the restaurant and I see these guys over there looking at sports. And I'm thinking, why is it every cool bar that has monitors everywhere, it's all sports? I'm like, you know what? I'm opening up my own place and it's going to do something for some women. We're going to have some things up there that women can go to and the men can come in at 9 o'clock. And you're going to pay some cover charge. And I am going to do something like that. Stay tuned. Anyways, I'm looking over there at the guys, and they're all talking and laughing and drinking beer and rubbing their stomachs. And oh my God, they're just having a good time. I don't hear anything them talking about their weight. I don't have them talking now. Some men will talk about their kids like, oh, my kid, he did this. He was running, he's a running back. He's doing this, whatever. They're talking about this male stuff. But I will tell you also, some males don't like that. I will tell you that some males don't like talking about that stuff all the time. Like, what car did you fix? What car are you going to get next? Yeah, my son, is he playing? Is your son playing football? My son's playing football. What, I didn't see that. It's all good. It's all good. I love it all. But at the same time, I'm looking over there and I'm like, these guys are taking shots. They're having beer. They're rubbing their stomachs. Just like you get on the beach, a woman's like, oh my God, should I wear this? Should I cover this? Should I cover this up? Do I look okay? Whatever. Oh my God. How many times have you seen a guy out there just loving himself with that stomach and just getting out there on the beach, jumping in the water, having a good. Those are the men I love because they're so confident. I think confidence is just beautiful. Men are not worried about, oh, am I bald up here, am I here, whatever. They're just having a good time. They're going and they're laying in the sun, rubbing that sunscreen on that stomach. I keep saying about the stomach. I don't know. Maybe I like that little stomach or something. Anyways, it's a little different, right? So let's get back to that. But you also see segregation. I talk about Netflix, I talk about the month, but also if you go into the library, like go in any library, there's American history and there's Black history. There's American history and there's women's history. That's why we have a problem. That's why you have a problem. In my classes, that's not allowed. In my problem, everyone has a voice. I don't care if you're from Korea, China, Spain, Africa, America, rich, poor, LG, physically special, whatever. You have a voice and you will exercise that voice. You will exercise that voice. So a melting pot is a melting pot of love. You're not going to be like me. I'm not going to be like you, but we have some things in common. Okay. And I think that what we're seeing, and finally, I think that what we're saying is we have to be careful not to just make this a white thing. Okay. And that's a problem. White people are having a problem right now because these people who are doing things they would never do in their lives. I've known white people all of my entire life. My best friends, when I first grew up, we were the only Black people, only Black family on the block, or only Black whatever. So my best friends were white people. And I've been privileged to have the best of Black people, Black friends, white people, people of Asian descent. We have people in our family of Asian descent. We have everything in our family. And I love it. And because of that, I don't have any prejudices, right? I can call what it is sometimes, you know. It's just like one of my favorite people in the world. He's no longer with us. He loved me so much. He didn't have any Black friends. He went to the army. He was working with some Black people and everything, but he took me in as soon as he saw me in this little town. And he just loved me from the very beginning. He really did. And he loved me so much, he gave me my first shot down there at the place called Rocks that I love. That's family to me. At Rocks Black Front in Charleston, Illinois, that was family to me. They treated me well. But we were just ourselves. So there were times that he would say certain things and I'll be like, you can't say that. I'm Black. You can't say that. He says, well, this is the way I was brought up and this is what I thought and this is how I see this. And he was just very honest with me. And a lot of times Black people have to go through that in order to get to the other side. You have to you have to be tough enough to allow people to say what they need to say. And I'll tell you, by the time, at the end of it all, he came to me and he says, when I first met you, I just thought there were ends, the N word. And he said, but I've changed. I ain't got nothing against, and he always said never had nothing against Black people. He said, but I realized they ain't no ends. We're just people. There are Black people. There are white people. There are no ends. I could have said there were white ends and Black ends, but I'm not even going to say that. We're just people. We're just people. And it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing that in that short period of time, those years of me just loving him and me and him just loving me and being open and honest to say, this is who I was, but this is not who I am anymore. It wasn't any skin off my back, because um I stood up for myself and I said things. As a matter of fact, I got two great friends that I love. I'm not gonna say any names, but I got great friends. Charleston, Illinois is one of the best favorite places I ever lived. I had a guy. He came in, and I was new, and of course, again, the only black female in certain ways, and this guy came up. His name was Larry, and first time I was ever at Rocks. This is a meeting water hole, and if you're a journalist, you go out to all the meeting places to find out what's going on. I went out there, and his name was Larry. He came up, and he's like, "Well, hey, you're new in town. What's your name?" And I said, "My name is Janice. They call me Dr. Collins. I'm working at the," and he says, "My name's Larry. Welcome." And from then on, we were best friends. And and I say that because you have to give people an opportunity to be themselves. You really do. You have to give them the opportunity so that you can judge them by their character and not by their skin color. White people, not by their skin color. Um, I have my friends Cindy and Robo, and where I would tell them, I would tell them so many things. Like, I'm the only black person, so every time certain things would happen on television or whatever, I would say, "That's racist. That's racist. That's racist." And I would get to the point. And when you like, they would serve, like, maybe they have some fries and it's like maybe it's too done for me or something like that, and I would say, "That's racist. Like, why are my fries like that?" And it got to the point where all my white friends were saying, calling out racism. But they were calling out racism when there was no racism, but they went over and above and beyond, where just because they wanted to not be racist, they wanted to make sure I was good, and they wanted to make sure black people were good. And that they would say, they're like, "Oh my God, is that racist? I think that's racist. Is that racist?" I'm like, and I would think to myself, and I was like, "No, I don't think so, but it's okay. Nice try." And they would go, "I think that's pretty racist though, don't you?" And you want to get to that point. I still remember my favorite friends, my best friends in the world, Robin Bush. She was a black young lady that I met when I was in second grade. I've only seen her once in my life, but she was my best friend. And Gregory Smith and Kevin Sally. I remember them. I met them one time in my life, and that's it. But they made an impact on me. And that was in Richmond, and they were black. And before that, Glenda Wallace, who was an Irish, beautiful redhead, freckled, green eyes, that I was in school. I saw her, I think, in first and part of second grade. And Jennifer Barker, that I saw one time. She was white, and that was in fifth grade. So all that to say is that I've really lived a blessed and privileged life. That I know that it's the institutions that have to be dismantled. It'll be forever before everyone changes as human beings change. So we have to look at the institutions in the systems that are actually allowing oppression, allowing racism, allowing misogyny, allowing sexism, allowing um, um, just discrimination, on all levels, the physical, the physically special. You know, it's even like when my Asian students, I wonder when this thing first came out, I asked them how did they feel and what was going on. And I allowed them and told them to do stories on it in class, talk about what it feels to be Chinese and or Korean or Japanese, because a lot of people don't know the difference. You look at them and you don't know the difference. That shows your lack of diversity, but also we don't know the difference, right? So it's good to ask, what do you think? And I would ask them, why are you wearing your mask or things like that? And have you been profiled, racially profiled? Because you have to understand a lot of Asians also kind of lean more toward being more white, and in some ways more advanced than white, in a lot of ways. So it's good to just have an open communication with them. And sometimes it hurts, but it's called growing pains. Okay? It hurt a little bit, but grow. At the same time, you are absolutely within your right to defend yourself and to make sure that nothing happens to you or anybody that you love. And I mean as not as a perpetrator or as a target. Okay, totally different. Okay, because black people, we've been here for 400 years and we ain't never stormed the Capitol, honey. Riddle me that. But let me talk about that. I believe there are people who are okay. I believe there are white people that truly, truly have been dismissed. I do. I do. I've seen them in Ohio in the mining towns where they closed down and they don't have good teeth, dental, and because they can't afford it, and their dad, the mines closed down and they can't move, they don't have education, they can't work, they're poor. And they have a lot of babies just like other people because that one thing they have is love and making love. And maybe, they may say something here or there or whatever, but there's not a lot of privilege. They don't have privilege in that sense. And they're barely making it. They're barely making it. Now, if you didn't know better, you would think, some would think, not all, that all white people are alike, and they're not. And I'm really concerned. I have white people in my family. I'm really concerned that somebody would look at their color and color of their skin and say, "You're a white person. I know you're racist. I know you're mean. I know you're angry. I know you don't like me. There's 72 million of you may not like me, actually, so I'm going to hurt you." That is not our history. That's not what we do, but I don't want that to happen. Hmm? I don't want that to happen. And, there's only so many times you could beat a dog, and that dog's not going to come up and bite you. So I want white people to just stand up um, and just say, we're not like that, and we don't want you all to speak for us. You can't speak for all white people. This is not about white supremacy or anything along those lines. And but you have to understand, like I say in my book, this my book is read a lot by white people and brown people, and not just black people. 250 years and still a slave because. In a way, we've all been enslaved, right? And I'm going to tell you. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like when I say this, but I'm going to just speak my truth. That's acing it. I'm going to speak my truth. And the fact is, I have been around. When you can ask me, how do you know your white friend is not racist? You can ask me that question, and I can tell you the answer. Okay, I can tell you the answer when this person at a particular watering hole that we all knew and is all great or whatever, and he used that N word against someone else, and the whole entire watering hole went crazy. They kicked him out. You're no longer here. You're no longer wanted. You are banned. You are out. These are our friends or whatever. That's how I know they're not racist, because they went against the system. They disconnected from the system of supremacy, racial discrimination and hatred that resided in that person or anything, and said, "You are not welcome here." And it's a majority white establishment. But the majority white establishment, along with me and everybody else or whatever, and looking, they went ballistic, and that's how you get a reputation where people of hate are not welcome, you know, and that's okay, because I think what's happening is people of hate are now going to be on the margins. They're going to be pushed on the margins. And I'm not saying to silence them. I'm saying that that is not the popular. The most of Americans said, we don't want to be more divided. We want to be more included. We want to try to learn how to get along and move forward. We want everyone to have an equal opportunity. The ones that may not want that, the ones that are terrified because they've never really had to deal with, oh, maybe a woman does know how to do it better. This woman. Maybe a person of color does know how to do it better. That person. They're not used to that. And so they're terrified of the unknown. And what happens, people play on that and they say, well, that's the unknown, but I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen right now. And because they're so terrified, they're so scared, they don't have the history. We don't have the history that they actually believe it. And I will tell you, I know for a fact I have a white friend who I know was in a very particular position, very precarious position, where this friend could have said this or could have said that. If this friend said this, and it had to do with a big deal, it was a big deal, something that was going on. If they said that, which everybody was telling her to do because she was this person, or they were white, this is what you're supposed to do as a white person. This is how you're supposed to feel as a white person. This is the system you're supposed to uphold as a white person. And they call this system America. That's a trick. They call it America. And I looked at this friend that I love dearly. and I knew cared for me, or he or she or they could go this way and tell the truth. And I never knew what they were going to do, this person. I never knew. Because we both knew the truth. But I understood, and we talked about how this could really ostracize her, him, they, them. This could really hurt their chances of getting a job, because this person was going to have to tell the truth. And telling the truth was, they did this to these black people. That's what was going to have to happen. And I did not know what this person was going to do, but I saw firsthand, as I've done many times, how difficult it is, challenging it is for some white people to go against that system. You think you have it hard? Imagine being white in that system and listening to all the things that are said, and knowing that if you say this, or if you say that, or if you do this, or if you do that, that you are out of the system. But it takes that courage to change it. So it may be hard. It's not harder than people have to deal with it on a negative side. And I'm happy to say this person showed up and actually told the truth. Actually told the truth. I was thinking about Cornel West being denied tenure. Now, I don't know whether it's racism or whatever the case may be. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it is just period. But I know that there are systems within our America that are upheld by racist, sexist, um, heterosexist. Is that a word? Um, policies and procedures, and most of them are not written. Is the unspoken. Um, that it really traps people, white people, like a system of racism. It traps people, white people, in the conundrum of not being able to be the best that they can be. They cannot. You cannot be the best that you can be if you're full of hate. It cannot exist in that way. And so there are plenty of people, plenty of white people, who are not racist. They may say racist things, but they're not racist. Right? And I think it's just the point where people, like black people, whatever, just tired of dealing with it. And really, they're just tired of it. I want white people to speak up, and who are not racist or whatever, and just, even if they are racist, but they don't discriminate or they don't hurt people, to stand up and say, you white people, my brothers and sisters, y'all need to sit down. Y'all messing it up for us, because white people have never been in a position where it gets to the point where they could just, people may not like them, because, you know, and I worry about that, because they've been so used to being in a positive light. They've been everything from God to Jesus to Santa Claus, and their minds and things like that. And they're good and good, 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 good. That these other white people are messing it up. They really are. They're like making white people out to be like mean and angry and what to overthrow governments in America. Seriously? The reason why we have the freedom of speech and all of that is so you don't want to go and overthrow the government. If we wanted to overthrow the government, I'm telling you, there are a whole bunch of people that want to overthrow the government over the past 400 years. 250 years. Get the book, read it, I'm telling you. But also, I don't think that, I really think that some of these white people, they have been dismissed. A lot of these white people who are fighting for this and fighting for that and fighting for America and patriots and all of that, sometimes what's happening is they've bought into that what they have to understand to be a patriot. You have to understand in every war there was a black person fighting there too, or a person of color, women. Everyone's a patriot. Hmm? But also, there is no one's listened to them. I don't think politicians have listened to these people. They've used them. They've used them. They've gone to these little towns and they've used them to get their vote and then do nothing for them. That's what they're angry about. And a person gets up and says, I hear you, and we're going to do something about it. And they never realize that that person has nothing in common with you. Nothing in common with you. But because you can speak the rhetoric that connects to the heart, the fear, the anger, the insecurity, whatever the case may be, you can move mountains and you can move people, even when it's nothing but untruths. Because everybody wants to be loved and everybody wants to be cared for. Everybody wants to feel value. That's why social media is what it is. Everyone wants to be of value. Ugh. So, I'll never forget this one time um, when the Trayvon Martin was murdered and killed. There was a professor who wrote mm, on my Facebook page, someone I had met and known, when Trayvon Martin was killed. And I was thinking, well, how was he killed? Why? And this person said, a white male professor said, well, now you know how we felt during the OJ trial. Now we're even. Hmm. Imagine this person teaching your child, even white children, knowing how much hate he has, and that it was okay to kill Trayvon Martin because of what happened and OJ got off free. Mm. I remember working at this place, and these people loved me. There was white people. I was working someplace, and there was a 4-year-old that used to keep me company while I was working. And he and I became very good friends. I would always give him snacks and things like that, and we'd talk every single day. And at the end, when I was leaving my job, at the end of it all, and I was moving on, I got down to his level. He was 4 at the time. And I looked at him, and he was such a beautiful child. Beautiful blonde, curly hair, and milky skin like God had just poured milk, and blue eyes. Gorgeous child. And I looked at him and I said, I just want to say I love you. And I'm always going to remember you. And I'm so glad we're friends. And I hugged him and he hugged me and he says, we're not friends. What are you talking about? We're not friends. Of course we're friends. What are you talking about? He said, I can't be your friend. I said, why not? He said, because you're an N. At 4 years old. Understand that hate is taught, my darlings. You're not born that way. You are not born that way. You've been conditioned and taught. You've been conditioned and taught to hate people who are different than you. Mm. But it's not natural. And you could do something about it. You could do something about it. And I want you to do something about it. So, one of the things that I do, you're acing it. I will tell you, acing it day number 9. One of the things that I do, sometimes, when you find yourself in a hole, in a conundrum, and you're reaching up, like I talked about the other day, you reach up and you just want to ask God, help me, Jesus, help me, God. And we do that a lot. We've been doing that a lot. We've been calling out on the Lord a lot and that sort of thing. Sometimes instead of reaching up and calling out to the Lord, sometimes you have to humble yourself and invite the Lord in. Mm. Sometimes you have to just stop and invite God into your heart, into your life, so that you can see things the way that God would see it. A person of love, an entity of love, a spirit of love, a higher power of love. And if you look at things like that, you can see the blessing. You can see the blessing that you couldn't see before. So I will say that try not to make a hasty generalization. Know that there are good and bad people on both sides. I don't even want to say good and bad people. I would say people of all kinds who do good and bad things. How about that? And then there are just some people who are just angry and full of hate. And we pray for them. But we ain't going to let y'all just kick us around now. I'm going to tell you that right now. So, and when it opens up, if you ever get a chance to go to Charleston, Illinois and go to Rock Splash Front, and you're a person of goodwill, and you're a person that likes to get along with other people, take a trip on by and get those chicken wings Janice style. It's very special. But I just want to say that I love you, all of you out there. There's a safe place with me. And I look forward to seeing you all when all of this is over, and it will pass. In the meantime, pray for these people. There's hatred and anger, and someone has to speak love and peace over the world. And so that's what I want to do today, to speak love and peace over you. I'm just loving on you. Oh God, there I go again. I said this is going to be short, didn't I? Well, hopefully you got something out of it, acing it. We only got 8 days left, and we're going to make the best of it. I want you to make the best of it. I want you, don't be marginalized. Don't let anybody marginalize you. I want you to empower yourself to move from the margins and be the best that you can be today. Be the best that you can be, boom, today. I love you. God bless you. You take great care. All right. Take care. Bye now. Peace.